and welcome to Code Rhetoric with Tam Talk. I am your host, Tamara Abraham, and I'm also the founder of Abraham Medical Coding Coach, LLC. So on this episode, I wanted to share some information on the entrepreneurial route. How do you go about pursuing or jumping on the entrepreneurial journey? So I've been asked by many people whenever we encounter each other and they ask, what do I do for a living? And then I begin to share that I am an entrepreneur specific to coding. And so they would ask, how did I go about that? What does that entail? And so I always share, again, my journey of how I got into it. And if you listen to the previous episode where I talk about, if you can read, you can code, how I broke out into the coding industry. And I took you on a journey of the different things that, roles that I held and the different things that took place or transpired that allowed me to reach my current state or current role. And so one of those things that I mentioned was doing the work long before you actually do the work. So in other words, I was practicing or mimicking the behavior of an entrepreneur prior to actually becoming an entrepreneur. So what do I mean by that? Now, before I became an official, I always say, because before I became an official entrepreneur, I used to tutor on the side. I used to tutor individuals, my colleagues, on evaluation and management services. I used to tutor on other areas of coding as well. In the beginning, it started off as me hanging out with a colleague after work and them expressing interest in some tutoring sessions. And to me, it was more of a, let's just hanging out. And because I enjoyed coding, I talked about it. And so initially I wasn't charging for those services because I felt like, okay, I was caught up in the accolades, the compliments. Oh, you know so much about coding. So I was freely giving of my knowledge. Then as I began to learn or I began to talk to other individuals like, hey, you need to be charging for your expertise, for your knowledge, because other people in other industries or entrepreneurs are doing as such. So anyway, I began to charge individuals for my services such as tutoring. We would meet at the library. And they would bring their material, I would bring my material, and then we would go through that material together. And I would share my expertise or provide strategies and tips on how they could apply those same tips to their particular body of work in code. So I did that off and on for many years. As far as a speaker, I used to volunteer to speak at, I can't think of the name of it, but it was one of the prep sessions for those coders who were preparing to sit for the coding certification maybe a week or two prior to. And so I spoke on the CPT section of that particular review. It was the CPC coding review. So I spoke on the CPT portion of the review. So that gave me exposure to be in front of a large group. I said large group of people or individuals and teach them, again, about CPT coding, as well as, again, providing my wisdom, my strategies and tips on how they could apply it to their test taking. So I did that for maybe a year or two. And then also, again, in my roles, I had a heavy background in educating providers. That was like a very distinct part of my role. I was educating providers. I was educating physicians, teaching physicians, non-teaching physicians, mid-level providers, compliance. I developed the report writing. Some of those physicians, they also had masters in business. So because of our work relationship, as in because I was either a manager or their auditor, and so that meant frequent communication, they were able to share some business strategies with me, such as negotiation skills and things of that nature. So anyway, fast forward. Again, I was tutoring individuals, and then it struck me one day. I was working, and I received a call from the operator in the organization that someone from outside of the organization was trying to locate me. They had been told that I worked for this particular organization, and they were looking for me. So once we finally got connected, they wanted some tutoring services. They've gone through the course, a training course, but it was more of a confident mindset. They lacked confidence to sit for the actual exam. So, and also at that time, when you're working and you have those one-on-ones with your leadership, and you have to evolve. And that's not just with coding, that's with any particular industry. You have to evolve from year to year. What have you learned? What have you applied from the last time we met? And, as it came to your reviews, employee reviews. So the thing was, are you pursuing another certification? What are you doing to add to your repertoire of coding? So again, at this time I was in school. My mindset was on doing something outside of coding. Here I go, looking outside of coding. And so I decided to pursue my certification as a medical coding instructor through AAPC, which I am credentialed through. And so instead of actually going to an actual training facility or what have you to learn, I did a self-paced. So at that time, because I was also still volunteering, with the organization, to the chapter, to, review the CPT portion with the individuals, it worked out. So I did the self-paced because there's two components to becoming an instructor. One is the written. You actually take the lessons, you pass the written exam, and then you have to perform a presentation, or there's an oral component to it as well. So luck would have it that my oral component and the written exam part was all on the same day. So I did the written part that morning. Then I went and I switched clothing and headed to present on a review. And I had the individuals critique me. And that's how I was able to get it all done in regards to the training, the becoming a credentialed instructor. And of course, with that, then I know of many coding instructors, but I also listened to what they were saying. Perhaps it was some of their gripes, some of their issues, some of their concerns, and even some of the good things as it relates to them being a coding instructor. And so to not compete with them, but also to utilize my credentials. So of course, whether I passed. So I was like, how could I apply what I know? How can I've heard their gripes. Some of them were pretty consistent throughout. How could I take their gripes and then I can flip it into something else? How can I make it different, make it easy for the student as well as for myself, the instructor. And also at the time, I had went through a coaching training and also have the tools, and it was like, let me share. I can take all this. I'm going to be a coach. I'm going to be a coding coach. That's what I'm going to do. I don't want to, because initially I did not want to be a full-time teach you how to prep you to become a coder type of instructor. I wanted to continue to do it in small chunks. There we go. I wanted to continue to do it in small chunks. So I was like, I'm going to be a coding coach. And at the same time, I've been doing a lot of things at the time. I also was preparing for the LSAT. So I did take the course for the LSAT. So I took some of the strategies that I had to learn in preparation for the LSAT, and then took some of the information and strategies I learned from the coaching training, and then my knowledge and skills as a coder and as well as an instructor, and I created Abraham Medical Coding Coach, where I am providing these coaching services to the individuals who are seeking to be tutored or coached, mentored, or what have you. So, of course, I go through the whole process of getting the business license and, making sure everything is legit. And with that, I was able to increase my rates. Okay? So, yeah, because now, before, I was legit, but now I'm legit. So I'm able to increase my rates. And so that's that part of it. And so that was my plan, not to go like I said in the beginning, I did not want to be like a full instructor. I just want to continue to coach and charge, my rates and what have you. Then luck would have it that I attended a brunch with some coding colleagues, a birthday brunch. And all of us the majority of us were coders. Some of us knew each other and some of us didn't. And so I was invited by one of the colleagues or coders or guests to come and speak at their chapter. Again, compliance is my thing. I can talk about compliance all day with my eyes closed. So I was all ready to give the presentation at that moment. Like, we could talk about it now. But they wanted me to talk about general surgery. So I was like, okay, I could talk about that. I'm also credentialed in general surgery. So we ended up going, saying, okay, we're going to talk about general surgery. And they gave me like the details, like the gauge, I call it the gauge information. Like, do we have like beginners? Do we have experts? What have you? Are we in the middle in regards to the knowledge of the individuals that will be attending the meeting? So with the information, and I sat down with my laptop to begin to prepare the presentation. And while I was preparing, How to Get Away with Murder came on the television. Then I had an aha moment. I will title my presentation, How to Get Away with Coding, and kind of introduce it in such a way, again, because my love of wanting to be a lawyer, and I love Viola Davis, and then I had a specific topic that I was great at, and I wasn't coming to teach them how to code. I was going to teach them the theory of, no, I wasn't coming to teach them the theory of coding, but I was going to teach them how to code. Like in a real coding session. Okay? Yes. So I went with that. Got, game day, got in front of the audience. Heart was having palpitations because a lot of people came out. Some of the people I worked with, I knew, didn't know that they knew. They showed up like, oh my God. But anyway, so I began the presentation. I did well, and thankful that those colleagues did show up, because part of the presentation did include individuals hands-on. So they were able to assist the other individuals with the hands-on portion of the presentation. So I appreciate my colleagues for that. Yes. So anyway, so after the presentation was given, unbeknownst to me, there was someone from the AAPC, the national, in the audience who really loved my presentation and invited me to share my presentation with her coding chapter. I was elated, and she handed me her card. I handed her my card, and by the time I got home, there was an email with the dates for me to select when I would be able to come and share to present. And I did, select my date, and I did present anything. So there was a request for handouts, like from the original presentation. So instead of giving handouts, or maybe I did, I can't remember, I did recall, well, what if there were other individuals who weren't at the presentation who struggled with the same questions? So again, I always say God, because I was sleeping. I felt like God woke me up in the middle of the night and said, create a book. So I was like, It was like God said, create a book. So I used my presentation as my outline to create a book on how to get away with surgical coding. It's not a big book, but it's a book. So again, I used my outline, my presentation as my outline to create my book. Had a book signing, book sales, and that was motivation that I needed I wrote another one. And this one was entitled Remote Coding, Know the Requirements, because again, I had presented on that topic. And so again, I used my presentation as an outline to write another book. And all of these are small books, and I call them small coding self-help books. And when I did this how to get away with surgical coding, I did reach out to some publishers, and they were very expensive. Again, I went to sleep. God woke me up, said, get online. There's Amazon. So I went, I looked. It's like, I just walked right into it. Boom, 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 boom. It's on Amazon for sale. There you go. And the same with the other book. And then, like I said, as I'm, evolving, now it's like, okay, now you're a writer. You've written self-help books. You're speaking. Now, I have individuals like, okay, I want to become a coder. I'm an instructor. So now, not only am I coaching or tutoring, I am now offering a coding training class. And at this time, it was face-to-face. So if you were like in that area, local area, then you were able to attend. But if you weren't, sorry. So I'm an instructor who's offering a course, How to Become a Coder. I've written 2 books for coding. I'm speaking about coding. So there we are. That's like what, 1, 2, 3, 4 streams. I would say if we look at it from the streams of income, it is streams of income, right? So then, that goes on, and then, people were inspired by my story of my journey of how it just seemed like it just flawlessly or naturally, how I naturally just walked into these different roles or these different streams of income, as the culture would say. And it's like, okay, yeah, it just happened naturally. So I can't say, okay, these, you got to do this, but it just happened naturally. And of course, you're going to have to put in the work. You have to put in the work. I make it sound easy. I mean, I'm going to say the door opened was easy. So we can consider those to be the doors that open. That was easy, but I still had to put in the work. I had to build a course, right? And I have to make sure it's this planning and all of that. And then when you're doing it on like face to face, you have to find the facility. You got to make sure, you pay that. You got to make sure you have all the material and the time and so on and so on. So we did that. But then, one of the people, the person, her name's Sonia. Hi, Sonia. Sonia suggested, hey, create a group, a closed group. So I did that. And so I put people in the group. She put people in the group. The people we put in the group put people in the group. And so on and so on. So I have this group of people who are interested in coding. They're either coders or in healthcare in some capacity, or they are interested in becoming a coder. So that was I guess you can say, and as a coach would say, my following or my followers. And then while I was in college, we had, when I was in my business class, we used to have these female entrepreneurs to come in and speak to us. And I specifically remember one saying, secure your name, secure your website or whatever on GoDaddy, because you never know where you're going to go. You never know what you're going to be. And so you want to make sure you already have your name, your domain secured. So I had already done that, but I had never really done anything with it. And then I need to build a website. So I went through and, built my website. And for those who, I'm a low-key introvert person. So to hit the publish button was like a monumental moment, because it's like, okay, I'm getting ready to expose myself to the entire world. And I did that. And so then I created a following on my website. I have subscribers on my website as well. So I have followers on the social platforms. I also have a following on my website. And it just happened. It just happened. And so it was like, now you have to keep them engaged. It's a lot. You have to keep your followers engaged. Be authentic you have to be authentic. And if they are coders, then they understand, because they know that you are working. And the way that coding is set up, you don't have a whole lot of time to be sitting on social media all day. So anyway, so that's that. And so then to build a website, that's another skill that I developed. Like, okay, I can do this. Okay, so I'm a website builder. So yes, so which led to other things. And because I was an instructor, because I was an entrepreneur, and because I was giving back to my alma mater, and I was I would say somewhat of a mentor for my alma mater college, university, Clayton State University. Anyway, they had this mentoring program where current students could schedule some time with you to speak with you in regards to particular career paths. So I, volunteered to do that. So I had a lot of students, primarily like in the nursing or in the healthcare majors, reach out to me to pick my brains, to learn strategies and tips for whatever their future goals were going to be once they graduated from college. So yeah, it picked up, and so because of that parlayed me into being a mentor for other students at other colleges. At this point, I was mentoring individuals from across the world in regards to being an entrepreneur or working in the healthcare industry and things of that nature. And because it was parlayed into another arena, some of those individuals or some of those businesses or colleges, whatever, were paying me for for my advice, for my wisdom, my strategies, my tips. So I was super excited about that. And like I said, I was speaking to people all over the world at this point. So it was like, okay, so now am I coding? I'm also providing business expertise as well. And it just kind of happened. So then I felt like I was good at writing. Well, I am good at writing. And I started writing. So I created a blog, started the Medical Coder Post. And so I started doing a blog. So it just kept opening up. So then everything started getting monetized. Your blog started getting monetized. The podcast started getting monetized. So everything that I was doing was being monetized. So, that saying, when you're doing what you're supposed to do, or when you're doing what you're love or called to do, don't chase the money will follow you. And that is absolutely true. The money did follow me. So things kind of fell into place, and like I said, the money began to follow me through the different things or channels of my business. And again, I took coding, and as I said in the previous episode, I took a lemon and I made lemonade. And so I'm still making lemonade. There's still self-help books I need to write. I'm speaking. I'm still speaking. I'm working with other, like I said, healthcare organizations as a consultant, as a contractor. So there's many things I can do that I'm doing, and I still feel like I'm in the beginning phases of this entrepreneurial route. But one thing, or maybe several things, that you would need to know as someone, if you want to become an entrepreneur. Yes, you have the skills, you have the experience, and you have the access or the tools, but it takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of mental capacity, a very, very positive mindset, to become an entrepreneur, because you're going to have really great days, I guess, from a financial aspect, and then you're going to have some not so great days from an entrepreneur, from a financial mindset. It's also about risk taking. So one of the things that was asked is, do you work? Like, do you hold down a regular job and then, or do you just leave the job altogether? Well, I'm a medium risk taker. I was doing all of this while I was holding a full-time job. Okay. However, one day I decided during a meeting that I was going to go ahead and resign and do it full time. That's not what was in my head when I decided to resign. Like, I didn't say this is why. It's just like, okay, you know what? Today I think I'm going to resign. And I told my boss, my director, this is my resignation. I'm actually going to resign. And I recall her asking me if I was okay, like mentally. So I was like, yeah, I'm fine. I think I need to do my own thing. But it does take, like I said, a very positive mindset. It takes time to do that. But when I shared with the director that I was resigning, like I said, it wasn't like, okay, yeah, I'm going to resign because I'm going to go and I'm going to work my business full time. That was not the thought. It was like, you know what? I mean, I knew I had those different streams of income. I knew I had my business, or at that time, a side hustle. But I wanted to, I needed a break. And so I put in my notice. It was effective immediately, which meant I did not work a 2-week notice. I thanked her for the opportunity, and I went to my desk and I collected my items, and I told my fellow colleagues it was a pleasure working with them, and I left. And it felt good, but at the same time, it felt good at the moment, but I wanted to make sure that I was not losing my mind the next day, and I wasn't. And so what entrepreneurship does for you, if you decide to go at it full time, is it allows you to be creative. It'll definitely show you what you're made of, and you'll also learn of other things that you have inside of you that you could do. Now, although I have my coding credential, and I'm in this capacity of coding and compliance, it has also reminded me that I am a college graduate, because I have 2 college degrees. Yes, I have 2 college degrees, and it was like I was not thinking of using them or like for anything. It was just, I went to college, I graduated, I played the part, I got the paper, and so it just opened up other opportunities for me. It allowed me the opportunity to go to Africa. Had I been working in the office or what have you, I don't know if I would have had that opportunity to go, but because I was available and because I was my own boss, I made myself available to go to Africa with a really good friend. It was an invitation. But I say all that to say that your entrepreneurial journey may not look like mine. It may be a lot better than mine, or it may be a lot worse. But again, that's where that positive mindset has to come into play. A lot of prayer, a lot of, motivation, positive mindset, You're going to go through phases, and I always believe that as an entrepreneur, there are different phases of this journey. I've gone through it. I've had the opportunity to observe other people go through it. And they don't tell me which phase they're in. I can tell by, I would say on social media, some of the things they may post or what have you. And it's like, I know what phase of this journey that you're in. Be strong, my friend, because it will get better. So yeah, you just, like I said, you have to stay motivated. You have to stay prayed up. You have to have people around you that are going to feed positive vibes, positive constructive criticism. Positive constructive criticism. They're only telling you these things and not to hinder you, but to sharpen you. And it's coming from a place of love. You're going to lose some people. You're going to lose friends. You probably lose some family members. You're going to lose people because people don't understand. If they haven't tried it, they won't understand what you're doing. And if it doesn't look like the culture, like you're in expensive attire, or you're walking around with stacks of cash, then they deem you not being successful. And that is not the case. The entrepreneurial route is more than bougie pictures. It is more than bougie pictures. It takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of risk. It takes, again, a lot of motivation. And also just knowing what you're actually providing, be it a product or a service. Do you know what you're actually offering to your potential customer or client? You have to know that. That's why you have to have a business plan. I have a business plan. So that is also part of the entrepreneurial route. You have to have the business side of it taken care of as well. Definitely you have to have the business license. You have to have a business plan, a marketing strategy, which is something honestly I did not have, but I've worked with people and I've listened to other entrepreneurs as it relates to that. I've networked with other business owners, and they shared some of the things that I need. Another thing, you need to have insurance. You need to have business insurance to cover your business. And so again, there's almost like a twofold or two component as it relates to becoming an entrepreneur. One, you have to have the business side of it, and then you have to have the actual product or service that you're trying to provide to individuals. For me, coding was mine. I come with years of experience. I took risk. I took risks that some probably won't take. I'm still taking risks. And I was creative. And I did things. I felt like I took coding. I took it out the box somewhat. And there may be other people who have done these things, but I felt like for me, I took it out of the box. I'm showing people what they can do with coding, and not just with coding. This could apply to any industry, any niche. I took it out of the box, and made it my own. I made coding my own. One thing that I do a lot is whenever I do work a job or consult with other healthcare companies, organizations, I always go in with the mindset of, this is school for me. What can I learn? What's missing? If I had to do a job here, what would make my job better? And if it is something that they don't have, or if it's something that I need and they don't have, and I ask and they don't have it, then okay, then I need to create it. I could create it for myself. I could create it for the person coming behind me. Yeah. So to make that person's job easier, so I literally sat in a role and created my own training module for the job that I was currently in. The position I was currently. I created my own training program for myself. And then the person behind me is or was using my training module for themselves as well. So you go into a job, you go into a career, you go into anything, and you're looking for a problem, and you also want to be able to provide a solution. So you have to have that mindset. Your mindset has to be different than I'm just going to get a paycheck. It has, how can I solve a problem today? How can I solve a problem in a way that, in my authentic way or my authentic self? These are some of the characteristics that are needed to thrive in this journey. And you have to be able to network. You have to be able to network. And then you have to be true to yourself. You have to be true to whatever it is that you're called to do, or the service or product that you are trying to sell. And people will definitely know the difference. Trust me, they will know the difference. You have to be able to rise above the naysayers, the haters, and the mockers. You really have to do that. And God is still working with me on that one. Yes, He is. But I'm better. But yeah. So this is my entrepreneurial journey as it relates to coding. Like I said, I did not have a particular sub niche. Well, again, compliance is my niche, but I would say general surgery is really what set my journey off, or started it. And it just and because of the motivation in that, it just kind of took off. And I'm still working on things. I'm still striving. I don't know if in the entrepreneur, if there's an ultimate goal, of where this is it for me. I don't believe that is the case. I think as an entrepreneur, you will forever be creating opportunities. You will forever be taking risks. You will forever be in that mindset. It's a natural thing once you're in it. So yeah. So that is my story. Those are my tips for branching out into the entrepreneurial route. Again, as it relates to coding, or again, in any industry. So until next time, again, you want to learn more, visit my website at www.abrahammedicalcodingcoachllc.com. And until next time, toodles.